couple of local cops thought they'd give me a warm welcome to their town. They tied me to a lamppost in the middle of the street, putting on a show like I was just another nobody. Little did they know who they were really messing with or how this would blow up in their faces. Let's start from the beginning. So here's the deal. Name's Tunny. I'm 54 and been around the block a few times. I just moved to this little middle-of-nowhere town in South Carolina to take up the badge as the new chief of police. Not my first rodeo. I've seen plenty in my time, but this place had a vibe like no other. Everyone knew each other, and they didn't exactly seem thrilled about fresh faces. It didn't take long to notice the cops around here seemed to enjoy keeping their own rule book, if you know what I mean. Before reporting in for my first day, I decided to take a stroll around town to see what I was dealing with. So there I was, blending in with my worn-out cap and an old jacket, just another guy on the street. I walked into a local cafe, the kind of place that looked like it'd been around longer than me. The second I stepped in, I felt a dozen pairs of eyes on me. You know the classic, you don't belong here vibe. Two cops sitting in the corner were laughing their heads off about something, but I could tell I was the punchline. They kept sneaking looks my way, sizing me up like they'd already decided I was a nobody worth ignoring, or worse, messing with. Their badges practically sparkled in the dim light, but their manners? Not so much. I ordered a coffee, played it cool, and waited to see how they'd react. I didn't plan on revealing who I was just yet. This was a recon mission. But as I grabbed my coffee to go, one of them barked at me from across the room. "Hey, old man, you lost or something, 'cause you sure don't look local." I half turned, kept my expression blank, and replied, "Just passing through." Clearly, they weren't buying it. The taller one, Jake, a wiry guy with a smug grin, shot back. "Well, maybe keep passing. Strangers don't last long around here if you catch my drift." I shrugged and walked out, feeling their eyes on me as I left. Something told me my new job was about to be way more than just paperwork and meetings. The next morning, I went for a run outside town to clear my head. Fresh air, a little peace, nothing out of the ordinary. Halfway through, though, I heard the sound of a patrol car pulling up alongside me. Sure enough, it was those same two from the cafe. Jake and his partner, Mike. Mike was a bulky guy who looked like he could bench press half a car. Jake leaned out the window and shouted, "Hey, runner, you lost?" I slowed down and replied, "Just going for a run. Pretty sure that's still allowed." Mike grinned smugly and said, "Allowed, maybe, but strangers don't exactly get the warmest welcome here, especially those who don't know our rules." Before I could respond, they hopped out of the car. Jake got way too close and started patting down my pockets without so much as a, "May I?" I stayed calm as they rummaged through my things. Jake finally pulled out a random scrap of plastic from my pocket, holding it up like he'd just found a treasure. Well, look what we have here," he sneered. I just stared at him, not taking the bait. It was obvious this whole thing was a setup. They grabbed my arms and dragged me into the center of town without so much as an explanation. They tied me to a lamppost in the town square, cracking like it was a comedy show. "Ladies and gentlemen," Jake announced with a mocking bow, "we got ourselves a big city troublemaker here." Mike added, "Yep, bet he's got a few tricks up his sleeve, or maybe in his pockets." Some folks stopped to watch, recording the scene on their phones. Others just chuckled, like this was normal. By the next morning, clips of the mystery stranger tied to the pole were blowing up online. Local news caught wind, and reporters started sniffing around. Meanwhile, Jake and Mike kept strutting around town like they owned it, unaware of how fast this was spiraling out of their control. The next morning, my phone rang. It was the main office. Word had reached up the chain, and they weren't happy. This little town's idea of fun was now a full-blown scandal. I walked into the station in full uniform, my badge gleaming. Jake and Mike sauntered in, laughing about something. The second they saw me, they froze. I let the silence stretch, watching them squirm. Finally, I said, "We've got a situation, gentlemen, and you're both right in the middle of it." Jake stammered, "Who are you?" I took a step closer and said, "Did neither of you recognize your new chief?" The room went dead silent. I pulled out my phone and played the video of their little performance, loud enough for everyone to hear. In case anyone's confused, this is what went down. These two thought they'd have a little fun at the expense of some stranger without even bothering to check who I was. The other officers looked disgusted. Jake tried to defend himself. "It's just tradition, harmless fun." I raised an eyebrow. "Harmless? Publicly humiliating people isn't harmless. And your tradition ends today." I signed 2 termination forms and handed them over. "Jake, Mike, hand over your badges. You're done." They left in silence, their smug grins replaced by panic. Within days, the prosecutor's office started investigating every case Jake and Mike had handled. Complaints poured in from people who'd been bullied or humiliated. The community demanded accountability. Protests filled the streets, and the town finally faced the truth about its so-called traditions. Standing outside the station, I watched people come together to demand change. This was why I took the job, to make a difference. The fight for respect and justice didn't end with Jake and Mike. It was just the beginning.